I had 45 seconds before the dessert spoons hit the table and the bullets hit his chest. My hand shook just enough to smear the ballpoint ink as I scrawled across the receipt. The paper felt thinner than tissue, like it might disintegrate before it reached him. Around me, the gilded lotus hummed with the low frequency of wealth, crystal against porcelain, muted laughter, the whisper of silk against leather booth seats. Outside, Chicago's winter wind howled against the floor-to-ceiling windows. But in here, everything was warm, too warm, suffocating. I approached table 1 like I was walking toward my own execution. Minjun Seo sat with his back to the glass wall, the city glittering behind him like a throne of lights. He looked like he'd been forged from steel and shadows. Dark eyes that tracked movement like a predator, black hair styled with calculated precision, a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my nursing school tuition. His hand rested on the table, fingers still, absolutely still in a way that suggested coiled violence. Beside him, Carolina leaned in close, her manicured hand resting on his arm in a gesture of ownership. Her emerald dress clung to her like a second skin, and her diamond engagement ring caught the candlelight, throwing fractured rainbows across the white tablecloth. She looked like a woman planning her wedding. She wasn't. 30 minutes ago, I'd heard her order his death. The wine cellar at the Gilded Lotus wasn't really a cellar. It was a temperature-controlled vault in the basement, all glass walls and soft lighting that made the bottles glow like jewels. I'd been sent down to grab a 2009 Barolo for table 7, threading my way past rows of Bordeaux and Burgundy when I heard voices. Female, sharp, speaking rapid Italian. I froze between the Chiantis and the Brunellos, my hand still on the bottle I'd been reaching for. Sai, Tavolo uno. Vicino al vetro. Yes. Table 1. By the glass. My Italian was restaurant level at best, enough to know when someone ordered panna cotta versus tiramisu. But I caught fragments. Table 1. The glass wall. And then, gli altri sono gia in posizione. Uno al bar, tre vicino alla cucina. The others are already in position. 1 at the bar. 3 near the kitchen. My breath caught. The bottle in my hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy. Avrai un tiro pulito non appena si sistema per Illinois dessert. You'll have a clean shot as soon as he settles for dessert. The air in the wine cellar, climate-controlled to exactly 55 degrees, suddenly felt arctic. Then she switched languages entirely. Korean, clipped and authoritative, speaking to someone else. I didn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Cold. Final. This wasn't a conversation. It was a confirmation. A countdown. Heels clicked against the stone floor, moving toward the stairs. I pressed myself against the wine rack, praying the shadows and bottles would hide me. Through the gaps between $1,000 vintages, I caught a glimpse of her. Tall, elegant, wearing that emerald dress that looked like it cost more than a semester's worth of my tuition. Dark hair swept into an elegant updo, that massive diamond catching the light. Carolina. The woman currently sitting at table 1, playing the role of devoted fiancé to the man she'd just arranged to have murdered. She disappeared up the stairs, her perfume lingering, something expensive and dark that now smelled like a funeral arrangement. I stood there for 10 seconds. 15. 20. Waiting for my legs to remember how to work. When I finally climbed back up to the main floor, Barolo forgotten, my brain was sprinting through what I'd heard. Table 1 by the glass. 1 at the bar. 3 near the kitchen. Clean shot during dessert service. And me, standing here with a ballpoint pen and a receipt, about to save a man who probably killed people before breakfast. The receipt felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds as I folded it into quarters. 45 seconds. I started walking. The wine cellar breathed cold air against Nia's ankles as she slipped down the last stone step. Oak and iron, damp earth and old money. Rows of bottles lay cradled like sleeping animals, their dust unbroken. She hadn't meant to hide, only to steady herself away from the noise upstairs, but voices drifted through the racks, sharp enough to cut. Carolina laughed. Soft. Intimate. Wrong. You're certain the vault will be open tonight? A man asked. His shoes scraped stone, impatient. Nia froze behind a column of stacked crates, fingers digging into the wood. The gilded vault sat 3 floors above them, sealed by family oath and biometric locks. No one opened it without blood or permission. Carolina replied, "I've already arranged both." The word both landed heavy. Nia's pulse jumped. She leaned closer, heart rattling loud enough she was sure it could be heard. "The council will blame the breach on an internal fault," Carolina continued. "By the time they realize what's missing, the assets will be gone. So will I." The man chuckled. "And Nia?" Silence stretched. A bottle shifted as Carolina lifted it, the glass whispering against wood. "Nia has always been loyal," she said. "Loyalty makes people predictable." Nia's breath hitched. Upstairs, the gala roared, music, laughter, crystal clinking, while here, her world narrowed to the space between those words. Footsteps moved closer. Nia shrank back, knocking her heel against a crate. The sound cracked through the cellar. "Did you hear that?" the man said. Carolina's voice hardened. "Probably rats." The footsteps approached anyway. Nia's mind raced, run and expose Carolina, or stay silent and survive. The air thickened, her skin buzzing with the weight of the choice. A hand yanked a lantern from its hook. Light flared, spilling between the racks. "Nia," Carolina said, her tone silked with surprise. "How long have you been standing there?" The lantern tilted, illuminating Nia's face, and the slim blade Carolina now held at her side, catching the light as the vault alarms began to howl faintly above them. Nia crossed the dining room with the note burning her palm. 7 words, folded so tight the creases had cut into her skin. The table was a crescent of power, polished onyx, silverware aligned like weapons. Candles threw soft light that did nothing to soften the faces around it. Carolina sat 2 seats from Minjun, composed, radiant, her earlier blade replaced by a smile. Their eyes met for a flicker. Carolina's brows lifted, a silent question. Nia didn't answer. She placed the note beside Minjun's plate. The paper whispered against stone. That sound carried. Conversations thinned. Someone cleared their throat. Minjun didn't look down immediately. He studied Nia instead, his gaze heavy, weighing. "You look pale," he said mildly. "Wine cellar air too honest." A ripple of laughter skidded and died. Nia stepped back, pulse pounding in her ears. Carolina's fingers tightened around her fork. Minjun unfolded the note. His expression didn't change, but the room did. The air pulled taut, like a wire about to snap. He read the 7 words once. Twice. Then he folded the note again, slower this time. "Whiskey," he said. Servants moved too fast. Glasses were set. The bottle was opened. The scent of peat and fire spread, sharp enough to sting. Minjun stood, lifting his glass. "To loyalty," he said, eyes never leaving Carolina. "The kind that survives temptation." Carolina rose smoothly. "Always," she replied, lifting her own glass. Her smile didn't reach her eyes now. It skimmed the surface, brittle. Minjun's gaze drifted back to the note. 7 words can be expensive, he said lightly. They can also be wrong. Carolina tilted her head. "You've always trusted me." "I trust patterns," Minjun said. "And interruptions." His glass hovered inches from his lips. So did hers. The table held its breath. Nia felt the weight of every eye, every unspoken accusation pressing in on her ribs. Minjun lowered his glass without drinking. "Carolina," he said softly. "You'll drink first." A beat. Another. Carolina's fingers trembled, just once, before she steadied them. She raised the glass. And as the rim touched her mouth, the vault alarm screamed again, louder this time, so close it felt like they were coming from under the table. The lights died mid-scream. Darkness swallowed the room, then bled red as emergency strips flared along the floor. Someone shouted. Glass shattered. A body hit the table hard enough to rattle silverware into a metallic scream. "Move," Minjun snapped, already pulling Nia by the wrist. The first shot cracked the air, close, deafening. Plaster burst from the wall where Minjun's head had been a second earlier. He dragged Nia sideways, overturning a chair. She stumbled, caught herself, the taste of copper flooding her mouth. The kitchen doors slammed open under Minjun's shoulder. Heat punched them in the face, oil, flame, sweat. Pans clanged. A cook screamed and dropped, clutching his arm as blood slicked the tile. "Down," Minjun said. Nia ducked just as another shot blew apart a hanging rack of knives. Steel rained. Minjun grabbed a pan off the stove and hurled it. It hit a man square in the face with a wet crunch. The man went down, sliding through spilled oil. The oil ignited. Flames licked across the floor, crawling fast. The red lights turned everything hellish, skin, fire, fear blending into one pulsing glare. Nia's shoes skidded. Minjun caught her collar and shoved her forward, straight through steam and shouting. Another figure lunged from behind a prep table. Minjun met him head-on, too close for guns. Bone thudded against bone. A knife flashed. Minjun grunted as it grazed his side, dark spreading through his shirt. Nia grabbed a bottle, didn't think, smashed it against the counter. The jagged glass felt unreal in her hand. She slashed. The man screamed and fell back, clutching his face. They ran. A blast rocked the kitchen entrance. The doors blew inward, warped and burning. Smoke rolled thick, choking. Minjun shoved Nia toward a steel door at the back. "Freezer," he said. "Go." She yanked it open. Cold poured out, brutal, shocking. They stumbled inside as bullets chewed the doorframe. Minjun slammed the door shut, throwing the latch. Dark. White breath. Blood dripping onto the ice-slick floor. From the other side of the door, footsteps stopped. Then came the slow, deliberate click of a lock being turned from the outside. Concrete rose out of the hillside like a threat that had decided to stay. No windows facing the road. No lights. Just angles and shadow, raw and unsoftened, as if the house had been poured rather than built. Minjun didn't speak as the car slid through the gate and sealed behind them. Nia's ears still rang from gunfire, her hands trembling despite her effort to still them. Blood, his blood, had dried dark on his sleeve. He noticed her staring. "It's not mine," he said, and then, after a beat, "most of it." Inside, the air was cool and smelled faintly of metal and disinfectant. The door closed with a sound too final to be comforting. Locks engaged in a quiet, methodical sequence. Nia felt each one like a hand on her spine. She reached for her phone. Minjun took it from her without breaking stride. "Hey! You're compromised," he said. He dropped it onto a concrete counter where it skidded and stopped near a shallow crack. "So am I. That makes you my responsibility." The word responsibility landed heavier than any threat. Nia laughed once, sharp and hollow. "I didn't agree to." "You agreed when you handed me that note," Minjun said. He turned then, really looked at her. Blood loss had drained some color from his face, but his eyes were razor clear. 7 words don't stay small. He pressed a panel. The walls shifted, silent doors sliding open to reveal depth, corridors, cameras, steel-reinforced glass. A fortress pretending to be a house. "You think Carolina planned the hit?" Nia asked. Minjun didn't answer. He moved toward a sink, peeled off his jacket, assessed the wound with professional calm. "I think she planned for me to die," he said. "Whether she ordered it or not is a detail." A low hum started underfoot. Generators. Backup systems. The house waking fully. Nia backed toward the entry, pulse climbing. "I need to leave." Minjun closed the distance in 3 strides. He didn't touch her, but the space vanished anyway. "No," he said quietly. "You need to stay alive." Something heavy shifted behind the walls, a distant mechanical groan, like a vault unlocking. Minjun's gaze snapped upward. "That shouldn't be happening," he said. The lights flickered once. Then the power cut, plunging the concrete fortress into darkness as an unfamiliar voice echoed through the house's intercom, calm and amused. "Minjun," it said. "We need to talk." The SUV fishtailed onto the coastal highway, engine screaming, concrete walls blurring into night. Nia gripped the door handle as Minjun took the curve too fast, tires shrieking like something alive. You planted it, Minjun said over the roar. Tell me where. I didn't plant anything, Nia shot back. Wind tore through the cracked window, cold and wet. Slow down before you kill us. He didn't. The dashboard glowed red, alerts stacking, signals converging. The fortress doesn't light itself up, he said. Someone led them there. Nia's chest tightened. Check the bag. Minjun flicked a glance at the back seat, then swerved again as headlights flared behind them. Too close, too many. He reached back, grabbed the bag, tore it open with one hand. Supplies spilled. Clothes. Paperwork. A small insulated pouch. He yanked it free. Inside, neatly arranged syringes and insulin pens clinked softly. My father's, Nia said, already shaking her head. Don't touch. Too late. Minjun cracked one pen open. A tiny black disc fell into his palm, no bigger than a coin, pulsing faint blue. Silence slammed into the car harder than the wind. No, Nia whispered. No, no, no. Minjun crushed the tracker under his heel against the floor mat. The SUV lurched as he slammed the accelerator. They tagged your father, he said. Which means they tagged you. Her vision blurred. He needs that insulin. He needs to live, Minjun snapped. So do you. She shoved him, hard. You think I'd use him? You think I'd? Think. Minjun barked a laugh. I think someone is willing to poison a diabetic man to get to me. Headlights surged closer. A black sedan pulled alongside, windows tinted, relentless. Nia's voice broke. If they took his medicine. Minjun jerked the wheel. The sedan clipped the guardrail, sparks screaming. If we stop, he said, low and furious, we're dead. The road narrowed ahead. A bridge. No shoulder. Sirens bloomed behind them like a promise. Nia stared at the dark water rushing beneath the headlights. Her phone, gone. Her father, unreachable. Minjun's console flashed one final alert before going black. Remote engine shutdown. Initializing. The SUV shuddered. And began to slow. The SUV died with a final shudder and rolled to a stop beneath the bridge, shadow swallowing them whole. Water roared below, relentless, indifferent. Headlights flared behind them, then cut. Doors didn't open. Engines idled. Patient. Minjun killed the interior lights. Out, he said. They slipped into the darkness through the ravine path, feet skidding on loose stone, breath tearing out of their lungs. By the time they reached the secondary car hidden under camo netting, Nia's legs were shaking too hard to trust. Inside, silence pressed in. Minjun drove without headlights for a full minute before easing them on. Only then did Nia speak. My father, she said. You said they tagged him. Minjun nodded once. They did. And you still dragged me into this, she said, voice climbing. You still. I paid his hospital debt, Minjun said. The words slid into the car like a blade. Nia laughed, a short, broken sound. What? 3 years ago, Minjun continued, eyes on the road. Private wing. Complications. Long stays add up. He glanced at her. You were signing payment plans you couldn't keep. Her mouth went dry. How do you know that? I know who owns what, he said. And who's drowning. You're lying. Minjun reached into the console and tossed a folded document into her lap. She didn't want to touch it. She did anyway. Numbers stared back at her. Too big, too clean, stamped paid in aggressive red. Owned by Minjun Seo. You can't do that, she said faintly. You can't just own it. I can, he said. And I do. Rage flared hot enough to cut through the fear. So what, she snapped. This is blackmail. You save him so you get me. Minjun's jaw tightened. I saved him so you wouldn't be forced to make worse choices. I keep him alive so you don't hesitate now. The road curved upward, lights of the city distant and unreachable. Nia's hands curled into fists. You don't get to decide my life. No, Minjun said. I get leverage. Her phone buzzed suddenly in the cup holder. one she hadn't realized he'd returned. A message lit the screen from an unknown number. "We have your father. Check the news." Nia's breath left her in a soundless scream as sirens wailed somewhere far too close. The range was buried beneath concrete and steel, the air sharp with oil and burned powder. Red indicator lights pulsed overhead, slow as a heartbeat. Nia's palms were slick around the pistol, arms already aching. "Again," Minjun said. The target slid forward on its rail. Human silhouette. No face. No mercy in the outline. She fired. The recoil jolted up her bones, wrong, sloppy. The shot tore through the shoulder, wide. Minjun stepped behind her, close enough that she could feel his breath at her ear. He adjusted her grip without asking. "You hesitate right before you pull," he said. "That gets you killed." "I'm not a killer," Nia snapped. "Neither were they," he said, nodding toward the blank silhouettes riddled with holes. "Until someone decided they were disposable." The target reset. She swallowed, jaw tight. Fired again. Center mass this time. The crack echoed, louder, cleaner. Something inside her shifted, fear folding into focus. Hours blurred into sweat and bruises. Pistols. Rifles. Knives that felt too intimate in her hand. She learned how to reload blind, how to clear a jam with shaking fingers, how pain sharpened instead of dulled when you didn't let it win. "Juno won't come at you straight," Minjun said as she struggled through a grappling drill, pinned, lungs burning. "Neither will the Costas. They'll test you. Break you where you bend." Nia twisted, found leverage, slammed her elbow back. Minjun grunted, surprised. She rolled free, breath ragged, eyes bright. "Good," he said. A smile ghosted and vanished. "Anger helps." She wiped blood from her lip. "This ends with them," she said. "With Juno. With Carolina." Minjun studied her like a weapon still cooling from the forge. "You help me take them down," he said. "There's no stepping out afterward." "I know," Nia said. And she did. An alarm cut through the room, sharp, insistent. The lights flicked to white. Minjun's expression hardened. He checked the screen, then looked up at her. "They found one of my offshore accounts," he said. "Which means they're moving early." Another alert chimed. Video feed. A hospital corridor. A familiar man being wheeled past, pale, unconscious. Nia's chest seized. "That's my father." Minjun reached for a rifle. "Training's over," he said. "They just declared war." The chapel glowed gold, every surface polished to blind. Crystal chandeliers floated above silk and marble, the air heavy with perfume and money. Nia adjusted the diamond at her throat with steady fingers that felt borrowed from someone else. "Smile," Minjun murmured beside her, tuxedo flawless, menace tucked neatly beneath elegance. "They expect envy." Music swelled. Guests turned as one. Carolina appeared at the far end of the aisle, lace clinging like devotion, eyes bright and unafraid. Juno waited beneath the arch, immaculate, smug, already victorious. Nia's stomach tightened. Carolina's gaze swept the room, and stopped. Just a fraction too long. Nia felt it like a hand closing around her spine. They moved deeper into the crowd, champagne flutes brushing their sleeves. Minjun slipped a thin device beneath a linen-draped table, fingers quick, invisible. A server passed too close, eyes narrowing. Minjun caught the man's wrist, smiled, murmured something that made him blanch and retreat. Escalation hummed under the vows. Security everywhere. Earpieces. Eyes tracking movement, not faces. Juno rerouted his detail, Minjun whispered. "He's expecting something." "I'm standing right here," Nia said softly. Carolina reached the altar. The officiant spoke. Words about trust, about union, about futures no one believed in. Nia's pulse hammered. Her hand brushed the compact in her clutch, metal, weighted, alive. Applause rose. The kiss came fast, hungry, a performance. As Juno pulled back, his eyes flicked toward the crowd. Straight to Nia. His smile sharpened. Minjun stiffened. "We're burned." The lights dimmed for the reception transition. A planned softness. A perfect moment. That's when the screens around the chapel flickered. Video bled through, offshore accounts, shell companies, timestamps. Gasps rippled. Someone screamed. Carolina's smile didn't falter. She turned slowly, lifting her bouquet, and dropped it. From beneath the flowers, a pistol slid into her hand. She aimed it directly at Nia as security surged and the doors slammed shut. "Congratulations," Carolina said, voice ringing clear over the chaos. "You made it to the altar after all." The gunshot cracked the chapel open. Marble exploded near Nia's feet as she dove, Minjun dragging her behind the altar. Guests scattered, silk and screams tangling. Security rushed in the wrong direction, toward the screens. They blazed to life again. Carolina's voice filled the room, recorded, intimate, confident, promising offshore transfers. Naming names. Juno's name, again and again, threaded through bribes and bodies and blood. Then his face appeared, unguarded, furious, caught mid-order. "No," Juno shouted, lunging for the console. Too late. Phones were already up. Too many. The Empire was watching itself burn. Carolina fired again. Minjun returned it. Clean and precise. The pistol flew from her hand, skittering across marble. She stumbled, shock finally cracking her poise. "You always underestimated her," Minjun said, nodding at Nia. Carolina laughed, breathless, wild. "You think this ends it?" Juno tried to run. He made it 3 steps before the doors burst inward, Federal black, weapons raised. Someone tackled him hard. His face hit stone. The sound was ugly, satisfying. Nia stood slowly, heart hammering, the compact heavy in her hand. She crossed the distance to Carolina, who knelt now, lace torn, eyes still sharp. "You could have walked away," Carolina said. "So could you," Nia replied. She didn't raise the weapon. She didn't need to. The screens did the rest. As Carolina was pulled away screaming, the chapel fell into a stunned, ringing silence. Power vacuum. Eyes turning, calculating. Minjun looked at Nia, not as cover, not as leverage. As a question. Sirens wailed closer. Cameras closed in. This was the moment that would be replayed, studied, mythologized. "Say the word," Minjun said. "We disappear." Nia looked at the shattered altar, the fallen crown of flowers, the guests already choosing new allegiances. She thought of her father breathing steadily in recovery. Of fear sharpened into skill. Of a door that never really closed once opened. "No," she said. Minjun's smile was slow. Dangerous. Proud. She stepped beside him, hand slipping into his, and faced the room. Outside, somewhere beyond the noise and lights, a phone buzzed, unanswered, with a single message lighting up the screen. "The board wants to meet the new queen."